Without further ado, let's invite the contestants on screen. We're going to start off with John Hoehler, Senior Business Executive Africa with Avatar World Group, AWG. And a shameless plug there, John, but absolutely fantastic.
You've got to get in quickly, James. Good evening, everyone.
You've registered every single person you've ever met in your life and every single person you've never met in your life to vote for you as well. Congratulations. That's how to do it, sir. And a very warm welcome. So what does Avatar World Group do? What do AWG do?
So we're focused on emerging markets, focused on content monetization, direct carrier billing. We are the leader in LATAM. We are emerging and growing very nicely in Africa over the last sort of 3 or 4 years and starting to expand into Europe now.
Nice. Thank you very much and a very warm welcome. Next up, we have Arman Aygen, Payments Innovation Consultant.
Hi, James.
Hey,
Hi,
good
John.
to see you. Just been in action. Really nice panel just before. And Arman is joining us from a terrible place in the south of France. Yeah, where the sun never shines and Arman never smiles. And he's shamelessly plugging himself before, calling himself a star. So we shall see if your answers are stellar or not, sir. But how long have you been in the payments environment?
I've been mostly interacting in anything that's related to emerging and new payment schemes for the past, I would say, 7 years, and looking at how we can expand and bring collaborative value in the partnerships between the different actors. So basically supporting the industry in developing and accelerating the growth of those emerging innovative payments.
Fantastic. Plenty to do. Yeah. Plenty. And very warm welcome, Arman. Thank you for joining. Next up, Martin O'Driscoll, Global Account Director with DOCOMO Digital. Hey, Martin. Hi.
Hi. I guess if we're going to follow the trend of the Eurovision Song Contest, I hope that the UK gets more than 0.
There is a great likelihood the UK will get more than 0 because even the loser gets 1 point per round. So yeah, we'll be doing better than with the real thing, Martin. That's for sure. Anyway,
I'll vote for myself.
You probably have set yourself a profile with something else. Anyway, it's a different story. Voter fraud, rigging going on. Watch out, organisers. Watch out. Anyway, for those of you who don't know who DOCOMO Digital is, a quick rundown of who DOCOMO Digital is, Martin.
So we're a payments company, predominantly in DCB. We operate globally, literally, live in well over 100 markets globally, and increasingly investing into alternative payment instruments as well to supplement our DCB reach.
But not cryptocurrency?
No.
Oh. But you're going to be talking about it. We're going to find out. Next up, I'd like to welcome Matthias Horvath, Payments Consultant with BPC.
Hey guys, great having me. So hope everyone is ready for this challenge. So I mean, I know something about crypto. I had it harder with DCB. So I luckily did not need to Google it, but I think I know what it is. So
as we say in British English, Matthias, swings and roundabouts. BPC, what's BPC? What do you guys do?
Well, we are actually existing over 25 years, and basically BPC, we are a software vendor in the payments matters, meaning we are providing traditional banks and also merchants and PSPs with the underlying software for the payment needs, including MasterCard, Visa, and those relevant payment rails.
Fantastic. Thank you very much and a very warm welcome. Next up, Andy Milton, Head of Sales and Marketing with Hitachi Security Business Group. Great to have you back, Andy.
Hi, James. Hi, everybody else. How are you all this afternoon?
Doing fine, I think.
Good.
Well, they are at the moment. We're going to find out very soon how you're all doing when the audience votes. Yeah, so Hitachi Security Business Group, just give us a quick 20, 30-second rundown. Go on.
Yeah, so we specialise in biometrics on devices, but also on mobile devices. So providing a way to ensure the person making a transaction is really the person you expect.
Very simple, very good. Great to have you. Thank you very much. And last but absolutely by no means least, someone who's been around in the industry, anyone who knows anything about DCB and the sector will have heard of Mr. Jarvis Todd, Managing Director, founder of World Telemedia, who is the king of shameless self-promotion.
Just stop it.
Me, sir. Go for it.
James, thanks for having me.
For those people who really have just woken up, what is Telemedia Online? World Telemedia, what do you do?
Well, hopefully we're talking to all of our readers and visitors to World Telemedia and to Telemedia 8.1, but we're a media and events company dedicated to mobile payments, mobile advertising, premium content, value-added services, and all that good stuff. And our job is to drive that and help them drive those services into all the verticals and all the different global markets that we see opportunities in.
Fantastic. Well, I up your Telemedia 8.1 in Marbella in October as possibly my first physical event, industry event I go to since last March. So fingers crossed things go.
Wise move. October's the time, I think.
I'm thinking that as well. But anyway, great to have you all here. And without further ado, you know the rules. You've got the 3 questions. Can we have the first question ticker? Thank you very much. Is DCB really worth it for merchants? And first up, I'm going to go with Arman. Your 2 minutes starts now.
Okay. I think personally that there is no one size fits all. And at the end of the day, it's all about how you reach to your customers and how you provide them choice and basically ease the process. The merchants are all about augmenting the size of the cart and reducing the rate of the cart abandonment, and providing them that kind of choice is very important. Surveys are showing that the first priority is convenience. How easy do you make it for them to pay? How fast it is, and how do you trust the payment scheme that is provided? How is it insured, and the data security that comes with it? Now, at the end of the day, all the payments that you have in your list are kind of tokens that link to your account, if you have one. So I'm talking about bank account. And in this case, it allows also the possibility of providing a payment without the link to a bank account. And the other question is, where is this sitting? Because my carrier billing, in my case, for my personal usage, is through a payment card. So how many intermediate do you have in the middle, and what are your alternatives? And in terms of convenience of one-click pay that you could provide in terms of the knowledge and the trust on who the person is, and is he really who he claims to be? The main alternative are the XPays provided by the OEMs in terms of frictionless payment. But it doesn't work if you're unbanked. So if you're talking about choice, maybe this is something you may want to consider.
Thank you very much. About 5 seconds under. Very, very good. Next up, just at random here from Post-it notes strewn over my keyboard, I'm going to pick Jarvis.
Well, thank you, James. Is DCB really worth it to merchants? Well, our job is to champion DCB. So the answer is obviously yes, and yes. I can only offer anecdotal evidence because we're the media guys. We don't have anything to do with actually producing or providing these services. So I'll just give you a little idea of what we found by looking at telemediaonline.co.uk, which, of course, you should all be visiting on a regular basis. If you plug in DCB into the search engine, you'll get about 216 recent stories. That's going back to about 2016. Between 2016 and 2018, we had a mere 41 stories. And between 2019 and 2021, we had a whopping 185 stories. Now, they all followed exactly the same format. Payment gateway or aggregator lands huge deal with major brand or merchant to launch DCB into XYZ country with the support of YZ AB network operator. But you get the idea. The format is pretty much always the same, but the increase in that kind of news has been absolutely astonishing in the last 3 years. Now, in all cases, there's a quote from the merchant in question, and they use one of 5 or 6 key phrases, which are increasing engagement, onboarding, reducing basket abandonment, increased credit card conversion, seamless, frictionless, single click, reach millions of customers. So clearly merchants are getting it, and they're getting it more and more and more each day. Now, the conclusion from that is that there's certainly momentum behind DCB. The payment gateway sales teams are obviously doing a much, much, much better job. So well done, guys. MNOs are obviously becoming more supportive, particularly as services become less contentious, and the quality of content is going up and all that good stuff. So I think the only other issue to talk about really is the cost, and there's evidence to suggest MNOs are
that's it. Thank you, Jarvis.
Oh, come on.
No. Your history, sir, for
Right.
this one. That's it.
DCB.
You seem to be going okay, although I can't comment. Next up, Mr. John Hoehler, Avatar World Group. Vote for me. That's your name. Okay, go for it. 2 minutes starts now.
So thanks, guys. I'm going to take it from my perspective. I'm based in Johannesburg, South Africa. So I'm going to come with the emerging market perspective. So we obviously focus on Africa, biggest, fastest growing emerging market when it comes to telco. Biggest challenge for DCB is still remains the share that a merchant can actually get from the telco. We had an experience speaking to a telco. They're saying, oh, we'll take 75% of the revenue, you get 25%. How does that help a merchant? It becomes immensely difficult for them to be able to create that real value between what they're trying to sell, be it either a physical good or a digital good, when you can only get a certain amount of payout from that particular telco. I think this is going to be the biggest challenge in terms of pure adoption. Now, DCB, as we all know, is one of the most ubiquitous payment options, especially in emerging markets where we've got low banked markets, low credit card markets. But when you're dealing with revenue shares and payouts like that, it makes it immensely difficult for merchants to be able to transact and see the real value that DCB can actually bring to their particular market. So obviously, mobile money has tried to correct that in some way, and growing rapidly in certain markets across the continent, as we see. We see a trend to go towards more postpaid customers. So in South Africa, for example, 17% of customers are postpaid. Over $10 to $15 from an ARPU perspective. A lot easier to monetize them than, say, a prepaid customer who's only between sort of $2 and $5 at the best of times when it comes to actual payouts. It's a challenge, guys, and that balance needs to be struck between what can be paid out and what makes it reasonable for a merchant.
Okay, fantastic. 15 seconds under. Great. To time. Next up, Mr. Martin O'Driscoll.
Thank you, James. I'm going to follow Jarvis's line clearly because I work in the DCB space. I've done for over 10 years. So clearly I'm going to make a resounding yes, it is worth it for merchants. But clearly, under the pandemic, there's been an acceleration in the amount of online shopping as people have had no choice but to buy their goods and services online. And yet we live in this world where nearly 2 billion people still don't have access to the basic banking services. So despite all of this huge growth, many merchants I talk to tell stories of missed sales and under monetization because of low penetration of the current payment instruments they offer. So they're actively looking for alternatives that will complement their current default. So the alternatives, wallets, APMs, but none will have the ubiquity, as has been previously mentioned, of DCB. Everyone has a mobile phone. Everyone has the capability to make payments to their mobile phone bill or through deductions their prepaid balance. But apart from the obvious benefit of its reach, there are other benefits. Marketing, the ability for the merchant to leverage the carrier channel to access the marketing assets to reach their paying customers. The benefits of simplicity obviously improve conversion rates, so removing the friction between the consumer and the purchase, so no need to fill out additional information, improves conversion. And thirdly, security, so allowing the merchant to be able to block or to allow certain transactions to apply different payment limits, monthly, daily, obviously, and also having multi-authentication processes. So sum up, yes, absolutely really worth it for merchants, I would argue. The benefits are clear. This broad audience, marketing and conversion benefits, given the opportunity to reach new audiences and generate sticky consumer habits.
Perfect. 5 seconds under as well. Well done for time. Next up, it's as if you'd rehearsed that the past few. Well done. We have Matthias. Go for it. Your 2 minutes start now, sir.
Well, I would also say yes, it's definitely worse for the merchants. And let me take it from this angle. Actually, we have around 3 billion credit cards in comparison to 5 billion subscribers, which actually would represent the potential users in the world. Let's take me as an example. So that the pandemic actually has brought more urgency to the vision of using DCB to make physical service transactions, and public transportation authorities are considering actually this is an option to avoid cash payments. So to move in these ways. For example, in Kenya, we as PPC actually move Matoto buses to direct billing, uses a Pesa as a known mobile wallet to enable transactions. Same goes that merchants actually, based on DCP, can avoid 30% app store margin. Also with some more numbers, by 2024, it is expected that carrier billing actually will overtake SMS as a contributor to total mobile service revenue. So DCB currently accounts for $50 billion in transactional volume, forecasted to rise to 80 billion in 2024. So actually, I think that's already some great numbers on these things. Also, global direct carrier billing platform market in the US market size is estimated to grow over 13% during the forecast period 2021 to 2026. So actually, again, gives a bit more into the DCB is definitely here to stay, and there is a lot of potential that it is in growth.
Fantastic. 20 seconds under. Very nice. And that leaves our final contestant, Andy Milton. 2 minutes starts now. Thank you.
Okay. So for me, I think there's some things that are still not developed enough and clear enough for the merchant value. I think there's clear value for the telcos, but for the merchants, I think there's some things that need organizing and structuring a little bit better. I think, as John said, some of the customers I've spoken to have some very high charge rates wanting to be retained by the mobile operators. I think there's still some big gaps in risk and fraud and how some of these things need to be managed. So I think longer term, I think probably it's beneficial, but I think at the moment merchants need to be careful before jumping on the bandwagon without really understanding the risks that could impact them.
Thank you very much. Short, sweet, to the point. I like it. Now, the audience, let me just check. In the polling, you will see a poll with all the people's names. Are they up? Yes, they're all up. So it's time for you to vote. You get 60 seconds starting now to vote for who you thought was the most compelling speaker. I know, well, shameless plugs, and I can talk during this. How about we've got music? I can't really talk so much. I'd personally, put it this way, I'd personally like to answer the next one, if I could.
Why not, James? Knock yourself out.
Feel free. James, you can take my place. You can take my place on this one.
Unsurprisingly. But
if we all finish 15 seconds early, you could have.
Can I tot it all up and then have that time myself? I love this one. Yeah. This topic. I actually know someone who's still got 50 Bitcoin, and they've had them for a very long time. It's like, wow.
So, James, did you lose your hair over the last couple of weeks with the fluctuations?
Well, no. If you really want to know, I lost it when I was about 22. So that's nearly 26 years ago. And it literally... It was so sad. It literally just went down the plug hole. Unbelievable. It really was that bad. Don't know what happened. It's as if I've been working in a nuclear power station reactor room. But hey, 2-1. So we have in the back office my colleague, Jessie McCallum, and she will have received the final results. And she's using a very well-known chat app to send the results to me.
Other apps are available.
Other apps are available indeed. Oh, and I have the results. Well. With 2/3 of the public vote, we have the winner. But I won't announce who that is. So we have joint last place. Can you say that? We have Arman, Matthias, and Andy. So you each get 1 point. Let me write this down properly. And then we have Martin in second place. So good job. And so what I'm talking about is I'm worse than the Oscars, aren't I, when that happened? I do apologise.
You can't count, can you?
No, I can't. I can't even read numbers. I've got number blindness. It's by my old eyes. So, Martin, you are in third place, sir. So you get 4 points for this one because there's 6 of you. Me and my man maths again. John, you're in second place. You get 5 points. And with 2/3 of the public vote on this one, we have Mr. Jarvis Todd. Congratulations, Jarvis.
Don't worry, guys. I don't know anything about the other two topics.
Good job. It's good that he actually was meant to be an expert in the industry as well. So that's a bonus as well. Excellent. Now, can we have the second question on the ticker, please? Oh, we have. Here we go. Is cryptocurrency just hype, or will it go truly mainstream? And I'm literally just snowing these here. Mr. Marty, can't see. Martin O'Driscoll, your 2 minutes starts now.
Thank you very much. I think this question would arguably be more relevant last year, but if we look at it where we are today, cryptocurrencies, $2 trillion asset class, best performing financial asset of the last decade. So in a sense, they're already truly mainstream. But as I said in my previous piece, we live in a world where 1.7 billion people don't have access to basic banking services. So many fintech providers, including us at DOCOMO Digital, believe that access to cheaper smartphones would change it. But progress has been slow, and arguably because fundamentally financial volatility of institutions, especially in the developing world, have caused an erosion of trust. On the other hand, cryptocurrency is borderless, decentralized, peer-to-peer, and with no central authority, such as government or bank. Every transaction is done with an encrypted signature. It's trustless, so it doesn't rely on a third party or an administrator to preside over the flow of capital. So, unsurprisingly, now governments and central banks are waking up to the potential of this technology and evaluating the feasibility of introducing fiat currencies or tokens. And so we believe this is where the so-called hype around crypto will take us in the long term.
Thank you, Martin. Very good. And next up, just my random Jamesness. I'm going to go with Mr. John Hoehler. Your 2 minutes starts now.
So again, I'm going to take it from an emerging market perspective. And Martin, you put out some really impressive numbers there. But I think in emerging markets, it still remains a very niche financial instrument for the exact reasons that you put out. Low smartphone penetration, trust, all those good things that come with financial instruments. I think for in emerging markets in particular, trust in banks has always been an issue. There's a lack of, is my money going to be safe, even if it's sitting in a banking institution? And when you couple that with someone being able to influence the value of crypto by simple tweets, as we've seen in the last couple of weeks with Elon Musk, I'll claim him as South African in that case. The value of someone putting their money into crypto in emerging markets is going to be immensely tough sell. Yes, the opportunity is there. I know many people that are mining in emerging markets. We see in Argentina, for example, because of the geography, down south in Argentina, good weather conditions, it's nice and cold, and there's government subsidies when it comes to electricity for mining. There are many farms actually growing in that part of the world. But mass adoption will remain a niche instrument and a niche part of the market. International remittances becomes interesting if you look at the diaspora of where people are sitting in different countries. You want to get around banking regulations, crypto is an interesting way of doing it, if you can get education and understanding and trust in the service.
Great, thank you. Well under. Very nice. Next up, I'm going to pick Matthias, please, to go for it. Your 2 minutes starts now.
Well, I think good comments from the previous speakers. Actually, I would say we need to distinguish when it comes to the crypto world. On one hand, the underlying technology like blockchain, which is also really quite an interesting asset for going to build up use cases around cross-border payments. And second of all, we even need to distinguish between crypto assets like Bitcoin, Ethereum, etc. Take it as an investment asset, and I think that is what's gonna stay and what's gonna be the mainstream topic is stable coins and also the related CBDC topics. As we nowadays also see that the likes of MasterCard and Visa or PayPal, all those guys are going exactly in this ways. Even MasterCard just recently announced that they want to enable actually stable coins to be allowed for settlements. Same part is going Visa. And then when we look to the central banks discussing CBDCs, this is, I think, the way it goes when it's in relation to real mainstream transactional used cryptocurrencies, which again is not the same, which is the likes of Bitcoin, etc. And then I think one of the major topics will be how the regulators are working together with the likes of the central banks to make this really not just an asset to invest, but really a regulated currency like it's nowadays euro or pounds or so on. So from my perspective, it's definitely something going mainstream.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Again, well under. No risk of me cutting you off in your prime, Matthias. Next up, Jarvis. Can you stay under 2 minutes?
Well, thanks, James. You know, I was the guy that said that email would never catch on in 2020 or 2019. So sadly, but I have to admit, yeah, I think it will probably become mainstream, and you should believe the hype. James McFarlane, I interviewed him, the CEO from PM Connect, and he decided to get into mobile when his mum bought a mobile phone. And I think that probably is the key in terms of whether or not cryptocurrencies will become ubiquitous and whether or not that's the time when merchants should be taking it really seriously. I don't think we're there now, but certainly we will be. Looking at telemediaonline.co.uk, stories where cryptocurrency is being deployed. We did have one from a football company, but then most of it was kind of porn, gambling. But more interestingly, I think tokenization in games seems to be where it's at right now, and I think that's where the most interesting side of this business is. There's also a very, very good seminar called Taking Mobile Games to the Next Level, which is BBC Studios and Reality Gaming Group, where they've put their technologies together and come up with what they believe is tokenization unlocking $100 billion market. So yeah, you should probably take that quite seriously. That's a big number. Juniper have reported digital commerce spend will rise by 11.6 trillion by the end of the year, and it follows that digital payments are going to grow alongside that. That's bound to include cryptocurrencies, whether you like it or not. Cash is dying. I don't even know the last time I used a checkbook or a postal order or even a banker's draft. Has anyone even seen one of those things? So sadly, even for an old codger like me, yes, I think cryptocurrency is to be taken seriously. Don't worry about it. It's not coming too soon, but it's around the corner. And probably countries like Nigeria and Vietnam with 32%, 21%, those guys are going to be leading the way. And some of our more developed economies are probably going to take a little bit more time to get there because we're sort of entrenched with some pretty good mechanisms that we kind of like already. That's it.
I'm glad because you were 3 seconds under. I was going to make it. That's it very soon. Well done in terms of timing. Next up, Andy, your take on the world of cryptocurrency. Your 2 minutes starts now.
Yeah, so for me, I don't think that what we have today is the final answer here. I think we'll see quite a lot of change over the next few years with some of the organisations that the banks and some of the other structured organisations looking at launching their own versions that will be more stable, more predictable. I think the volatility of cryptocurrency in its current form puts a lot of normal investors off. And I think you'll see somebody like Tesla launch their own version or something similar. And I think that's one of the hidden agendas behind Tesla's change of track on this, that they're now withdrawing from it and they're looking at doing something different. So, yeah, I think it's mainstream. I think, yes, it will be, but not at the moment and not in its current form. I think it's going to shift a little bit before we get to the end of this journey.
Okay, thank you very much, Andy. And that leaves Arman to round up this round. Your 2 minutes starts now. Thank you very much, sir.
I'm going to agree with Andy, and I'm going to give a very Swiss answer. I'm going to say yes, but no. So I do believe that it's going to be mainstream, but it's not going to be in the form that it is out today. And I'm going to use a completely different angle than what was presented until now. It's more the sustainable angle, in the sense where the most famous one, Bitcoin, is not a sustainable form of transaction to be used as a currency. I personally don't think that it's using way too much energy. It's using way too much power, electricity, in terms of running it. And it's mostly down to the unspent transaction output. So in the format in which it is today, in terms of scaling and usage, it's not going to be a currency. It's more of an investment program right now. But I do believe that cryptocurrencies will be mainstream. When we don't know, but CBDCs is one example of central organizations taking this seriously. We're going to see first usage of stable coins where people are going to get familiar with it. And then we're going to see finally cryptocurrencies being used as a prime replacement of the cash usage that we have now. Cash is limited in geography, and those cryptocurrencies done properly will be a good example of a cash transaction that would not have a geographical limit.
Okay, thank you very much. Well in time. And audience, your 60 seconds to vote starts now. I can see the poll has just gone up. Thank you very much. Well, so someone actually did, congratulations, you did mention the whole Tesla thing. But that was my question actually in the previous session, all about that. The fact that he's put a couple of billion into Bitcoin, yet he's just announced saying, oh, we're not accepting Bitcoin for our Tesla purchases. Bit of a strange one, that one. But that would make sense under your points. That's a good one, I thought, yeah.
Yeah.
Something left field like that.
Well, he's used the sustainability angle that...
exactly. That's what he said. But yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, I think there's more to it.
That's what surprised me first when he did this huge Bitcoin transaction. For someone that's all about sustainability, that's really...
I know, there was about $2.5 billion worth or something, wasn't it? Yeah.
And
then this whole Dogecoin thing with one tweet sent the price up like 30% or something unfathomable just from one tweet.
I saw some crazy story about that what he managed to gain after he's purchased the 1.5 billion purchase was more than his Tesla sales this year.
Quite possibly. Anyway, the result is going to be inbound.
Isn't that insider trading if you can affect a market that much with one comment?
One tweeter.
Yeah.
One tweeter.
Yeah. Okay, so I have the results here. Lead at the bottom of the pile. Am I allowed to say that? Can I be correct in saying that? But bringing up the rear, we have Arman and Matthias. So both of you get 1 point. Then we have Mr. Andy Milton. So that means you get, 1, 2, 3 points. And then in joint second, we have Martin and John. So that means you both get 4 points. But that means the winner again of this round, don't laugh, John, it's Jarvis Todd.
I should just say, guys, you have a huge 40% of this magazine. It's very unfair.
But are you giving free subscriptions out? What's the story here? What's the
I'm glad you asked that because
so hang on a second. If you get a clean sweep, Jarvis, are you giving everyone here free access to Telemedia 8.1 in Marbella?
I think that's a great idea.
All my fellow panelists, 100%. Yeah, absolutely, James. Please just email me afterwards. I'll send you.
Okay, I think they're gonna sign up now, and
it's the very least I can do.
The very least. But there we are. Hey, nothing in life is certain apart from war, death, and taxes with an E. But anyway, ticker, please. Question 3. Line it up. There we go. Something we've been talking about a lot of the day. but really the whole of the industry. But this time we're aiming it at payment service providers. Are they doing enough to protect against fraud? Right. First up, I literally did just pick this up at random. It's Jarvis, please. So Jarvis, your minute starts now.
Obviously, all the payment service providers that are sponsors and advertisers with us are definitely doing enough, and I can't speak highly enough of them. The simple answer is that some are and some clearly aren't. And again, I can only offer anecdotal evidence as the media guy. But what I would say is that in the last 5 years, we've seen more PR and more news coming out in the following format. Payment service provider X partners with anti-fraud company Y. And the reason they're doing that is that they realize that it's vital not only for their customers to have trust in their operations, but also they want to send out a clear message to the network operators who they want to partner with. And I think, given what we were talking about in the first question, as we've seen the increase in DCB and merchants and penetration of services, that clearly that is starting to work. If we look at how anti-fraud, cybersecurity, and ad monitoring companies have really put this topic center stage, it's reflected very clearly in the fact that at the World Telemedia shows, if you go back 5 years, you probably wouldn't really have seen any of those companies particularly high profile in the market. Now they make up a really significant proportion, and we are grateful for that. Also, if we put anti-fraud posts up on LinkedIn, we tend to get something like 50 to 60% more views on LinkedIn. That represents that people realize it's an important aspect of the market. I would also say, though, that I think we're very good at self-flagellating in this industry, and there are lots of other digital industries that have got a serious problem that perhaps they don't make quite so much of as we do. But credit cards being a good example, I think. We are currently getting one report or white paper per month, which again illustrates just how important this issue is, and also illustrates just how generous and how supportive these companies are to payment service providers. So there really is no excuse not to take it seriously and not to partner up with them and not to get on board. We've currently updated.
I was going to let you run for an extra 4 or 5, then be charitable. I thought you were coming to the end, but you weren't. So
all I would say is just to back that up is that also.
Hello, did I allow you to do that? No, thank you. Back into the shadows there. Back into the.
I'm sorry.
Coming out from the shadows, Arman, Aygen, go for it. You've got 2 minutes starting now.
Okay, I do believe that payment service providers are doing a lot in protecting against fraud. And from that perspective, I don't think there's any compromising between privacy and convenience. And in that sense, I'm very careful on how I interact online. And for that matter, I think there's one predicament that I have seen is the behavior of people with regards to the merchants' carts and the merchants' onboarding. And I saw a statistic that was really interesting, is that 35% of the people making online purchases are using a guest checkout. And I think that's a good sign of that. And the other thing is, whenever you have a case of a hacking that happens with regards to the details of the payment details held by the consumers tend to blame the merchant for it directly. And I think there's a reason for that in the sense where the payment providers are doing quite a fair bit in order to protect against fraud. Now, I'll open this question into maybe a suggestion. Those fraud algorithms that are being used are predicting behaviors and looking at behaviors that happen outside of the traditional usage. And I think those could be very interesting to see if you flip them upside down in terms of enabling convenience and functionalities for the people. So instead of protecting them from the fraud, you could also bring them additional value. So I think that's going to be an interesting play to look at.
Thank you very much. 10 seconds under. Very nice. In terms of timing. So next up, Matthias, please. Your 2 minutes starts now.
Well, I would also say that actually payment service providers do enough. As we see nowadays, all those fraud management tools are featured, including AI, machine learning, customer behavior models, etc. However, we all need to be all together, meaning everyone plays a role in this game to have it 100% bulletproof. That brings me actually to one of the most important case here is actually education. Education is definitely really essential to the rise of friendly fraud and actually phishing mails, like we also nowadays see more and more in relation to the pandemic topic too. Also one critical thing, and I think we didn't spoke about this so much now, is the likes of banks or financial institutions also has to take actually omni-channel approaches. So meaning also to have checking enterprise fraud, meaning around 30%, and I think that's quite interesting, of fraud comes from internal sources as banks and not from any client. So also to detect exactly internal enterprise fraud and not just something what happens outside around. And last but not least, I think one helpful tool here is also to involve the customers or the cardholders, so to give them the control, also provide them with the relevant features so that the client, the customer, cardholder can actually manage his credentials himself. Let's say if he is not in the traveling, let him just switch off the capability of his card, that it works abroad, etc. Or he does not purchase online, let him switch it off for e-commerce, etc. So that he is also aware of this and can manage it himself, which also again underlines the idea about educational approach for clients and so on. Yep.
Thank you. Absolutely spot on, bang on. Next up, Mr. Andy Milton, please. Your 2 minutes starts now.
Yeah, so from my point of view, the merchants aren't doing enough, but then they will never, ever do enough. And the reasons that they'll never do enough is they are trying to predict things using AI and other things that are really only going to work for a limited period of time before the people that want to perform or do things catch up or invariably move ahead of them. So we've seen lots of cases where AI was predicting certain behaviors and certain outcomes. And what we've seen is more and more that fails over a period of time as the bad people work out what those predictive mechanisms are and how that fits. And the challenge for most of the merchants are that they're trying to do it without really checking the identity, without really verifying that it's definitely the right person standing there. They're using standard protocols just to say, yep, this is the mobile device of that person, not this is the mobile, this is the SIM card. They all match, they're all in the same place. And actually the person pushing the buttons is the right person. And we're seeing some of that start to take off with biometrics and with other things, moving it away from what is on the standard phone and moving it into something that actually can be managed and predicted by the merchant themselves. So rather than relying on Apple's version of biometrics or Samsung's, it's actually a biometric that's under the control of the merchant, so they can guarantee the level of authentication.
Thank you very much. Nicely under there. And straight up, we're going to go to Martin. Your 2 minutes starts now. Thank you.
Okay, I mean, I think the PSP question is obviously very broad because it takes in a multitude. But so I'm going to argue this from the perspective of m-commerce. But I mean, in short, doing enough in itself is not enough. We have to fight against complacency. I think the growth in online sales, the impact and cost of fraud is growing. And with that growth, the rewards for fraud just become greater and more attractive. I think it was there was a report by LexisNexis that concluded that detecting fraud in remote channels, especially mobile, is more complicated than physical stores, and smartphone m-commerce transaction speeds and volumes, exacerbate that problem. So in short term, m-commerce needs smarter fraud protection. So who should do it? Online merchants know themselves they have to get better at detecting e-commerce to minimize their losses. But there is an element here that as fraud is becoming more sophisticated, the merchants are kind of looking at having to introduce more steps into the buying process, which is kind of counterintuitive and leads to a higher transaction abandonment rate. So So there is a greater fallback then on PSPs within the mobile space to provide much more sophisticated cybersecurity capabilities, and they become very complex and time-consuming for merchants. So the responsibility does fall upon the PSPs to do more. Doing enough is just not in itself not enough.
Thank you, Martin. And straight to John, please. In South Africa, your 2 minutes starts now.
So I think the answer is yes, because it's not a choice anymore. If you are a serious payment service provider, fraud detection and fraud prevention needs to be at core of your business. If it isn't, you're not a serious player, or you must be weeded out. It's really as simple as that. For us, it's an ecosystem play. It's not just the responsibility of one party, it's a responsibility of all parties within the ecosystem to try to protect against fraud within their particular jurisdiction. We have seen with ourselves, for example, we've obviously partnered with the likes of Avena to help us on our side, but at the same time, we're building our own services to help prevent as well. But we're also then working with our telco partners who also have fraud detection services within their infrastructure to try and prevent, to clean this, to make sure that transactions are clean, and more importantly, customers are protected at the end of the day. The reality is that fraud works faster than the technology that can stop it, and I think that's always going to be the challenge that we as an industry are going to face. As much as AI and ML is helping us to prevent fraud, I bet you it's also helping the fraudsters to be able to be a lot cleverer and a lot faster in the way they're creating and driving fraud.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Audience, your 60-second. Can I see the poll? The poll isn't up yet. It is up now. 60 seconds starts now. Thank you. Yeah. So how do you feel it went?
Oh, it was fun.
Nice.
Good. Enjoyed it. Excellent.
Nerve-wracking, actually.
No, it's under pressure with those 2 minutes because
it's like one of those games you play at Christmas. You go, yeah, I'm not really interested, and then all of a sudden it starts. You're like, I've got to win this.
I know.
Forget it.
The tricky thing is, as you hear everyone's comments, you're like, oh no, scratch.
Yeah, I've said that already or something. So if you're going last, it's the hardest from that perspective. I know, but you've got to.
You were very good, John. I thought you're excellent there, mate. That's very good.
Yeah, it's top class.
You know that in Eurovision, if you perform towards the end, you've got a better chance of winning.
Is that statistically proven to be true?
Statistically, if you're in the second half of the show, yeah, you've definitely got a better chance. Because
like in inside lane, you haven't got a chance, even though you're running exactly the same distance, because everyone can see what you're doing the first to break.
That's right.
Excellent. We have the results straight away through in. Oh. Wowzers. We have a joint last place, so that's 1 point each for Matthias, Andy, and Martin.
Ooh. Oh, that's unfair.
It's unfair. Life's unfair sometimes.
I voted for you, Martin.
Should I give a drum roll or not? Do it. I'm just going to get to it. And then with... So getting 4 points is Arman